Well, hello everyone. This is Tommy, World at War Comics. Thanks for joining us today. We have another fantastic guest for you. But before we get into that, if you could please hit that subscribe button, that really helps out the channel, and hit that ring bell too. That way you get notified every single time an interview drops. We want you to stay up to date with all the amazing content that we are creating for your enjoyment. All right, today's episode is brought to you by Cien Chilies. Go to cienchiles.com, cienchiles.com. Go there to pick out all your favorite hot sauces. I'm telling you, it's the best hot sauce you will have ever. And if you use comics at checkout, you save 15%. So you'll be supporting an amazing family in their small business here in San Diego. And you'll be tasting some of the best homemade hot sauce you've ever had in your life. Go to cienchiles.com. 15% off when you use comics at checkout. Also, one of our partners is Comic Crusaders. Check them out. Go to comiccrusaders.com to get all your comic book reviews, movie reviews, music reviews. They even have incredible interviews with some of the best in the comic book industry. So check out Comic Crusaders. All right, without further ado, my next guest is Malcolm McFadden. He is the owner of 615 Comics, and this is their newest comic, Evora Leigh. Incredible comic book action packed. The art is absolutely fantastic. Check it out. 615 Comics. Make sure that you're following them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. But amazing. They actually have a current Kickstarter right now. It's called King's Domain. Go to Kickstarter, type in King's Domain. There's 10 days left, and you could be a backer there and get your comic through Kickstarter. I'm telling you, this comic book company is awesome. I love the storyline. Their art is incredible. Make sure that you're backing them and supporting them. All right, without further ado, here is Malcolm and I hope you enjoy. Thank you, everybody. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. We have another amazing show today. Today, we got Malcolm McFadden. He is the owner of 615 Comics. And man, I just entered into the 615, Malcolm, and I was very happy with my first comic into the entrance. I got Evora. I think it's Leigh, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Leigh.
Leigh,
Yep.
yeah. So, man, this was dope. The art is insane. Her powers are incredible. Like, I don't want to give it away, but it was a lot of fun. I've been following you for a couple months now, and everything looks top notch. So, yeah, you got me, bro. I'm gonna have to like dig in and start buying some comics, and so I could start, understanding the universe that's been created. But before we get into that, man, how are you doing, Malcolm? Everything good?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a great year, getting 615 Comics started this year. So it's been a great journey, and it's been a kind of up and down roller coaster, but it's been mostly up. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. There's we all want to make a comic book. I don't think we realize how hard it is to do a comic book until you do it, right? And how
Yeah.
expensive it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like easy on one side because everything's readily available to do it. But man, the cost, the time, the storyline, working with artists, all that good stuff, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, you don't think about it until you jump into it. Like all the things that you would need to make a comic book. Like you read comic books your whole life, and
Yeah.
then you don't even think about what goes into making it. And then once you get into it, it's like, oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is this is like real work here. This is something I'm really gonna have to, put my head down and do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we're gonna get into all the business side of it. And to be honest, I'm shocked that you just started this year, man, because I feel like you've accomplished a lot in a short period of time with a comic book company, which is quite impressive, man. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, man, maybe we could just kind of go back, Malcolm, and you could kind of share like what was your entrance into comics, man? How did you get into comics the first time? And do you remember like your favorite comic growing up? And what kind of impact that had on you even to this point?
Okay, so that's kind of real easy for me. So when I got into comics, it was real early on because I have older brothers who are much older, 10 plus years older than me.
Okay.
So they had a whole bunch of comics when I was a kid. Like they had Captain America, they had the Weapon X comics. Like
Yeah.
they like before they even had like the X-Men, they had just simply Weapon X comics that was just Wolverine. They have, of course, Batman, Daredevil. So that was my like entrance into comics. And I remember as a kid, like Batman was always my favorite. Batman was always the one I went to because who doesn't like Batman? He shows up at night, beats up criminals, he has a whole bunch of money, so he was always one of my favorites. And then so that it was my, way into comics. And then once I got older and was able to like buy my own comics, like I got an actual job and stuff and I wasn't broke anymore. I think that was around New 52. I think like DC was on their like New 52 run around that time. And I believe Marvel was doing the all new, I think it was like the all new Marvel or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
was one of their reboots. I
yeah,
think both of them were like rebooting around the same time. And then that's how that was my like when I became an adult and could buy my own comics, how
yeah,
I like jumped into those. And so that New 52 really kind of shaped my like
yeah.
uh how can I say like style of comics that I like. And
Sure.
then that kind of just branched out to me going from like DC to Marvel to more like indie comics and just like really branching out to a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the New 52 Batman, how it started, man, it was fire, man. You got Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo on art. I mean, come on, right? And then that, what was it? It was the owl,
For the
that's
Owls.
yeah, exactly. Court of Owls, right? I mean, that is an amazing story in itself. So what an amazing way to kind of enter in on your own into Batman because that was for me at least. I don't know if you felt the same way, but that was such an amazing story. And I thought Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were such an amazing team for that run that they had on the New 52.
Yeah, it was great. It was like so, like I said, it was kind of like me coming back into comics as an adult and able to buy it myself. So like,
Yeah.
and not reading other people's comics. And so that one was great because like the art was great and it's a easy story for like even if you're not like even if you haven't been in the comics for a while, it's
Yeah.
an easy story for you kind of just jump on. If you know a little bit about Batman, that's all you really need to know, and then you can jump right in the Court of Owls and just go from there. So
Yeah.
that was real easy.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. So then, after, you go through and Batman obviously has this impact on you. It seems like you're more of a DC guy growing up than maybe a Marvel guy. And then you got into Marvel a little bit later. Did I get that right?
Yeah, definitely. So I definitely because Batman was always my favorite. So Batman and Spider-Man were my favorite. Like Spider-Man was mostly what I had from Marvel and some other little and other comics, but once I started out with DC, branched into DC and Marvel, and then from that, went into like, oh, I want to find more comics that aren't just in this, these big two, which went to going to indie and then going to like, Kickstarters and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. When was the first time that you maybe thought in the back of your head, like I have a story one day I would love to do a comic book?
Oof.
You
I
remember
don't
that?
know if I can pin. I don't know if I can pinpoint because I've been creating characters for like ever. Like
Oh, that's
like
cool.
because like just being a nerd and into
Yeah,
comics is just like characters coming to your head all the time, just like
that's awesome.
random characters. But I would say more so like when I thought like hey, I need to write these stories down and like get these out of my head. I would say a little bit before it's the time frame is kind of iffy because the pandemic, but I would say
Yeah,
either around the pandemic or a little bit before the pandemic, I
yeah.
started kind of like writing these ideas down.
That's cool, man. And then growing up, you said you kind of played around with characters. Were you drawing your own characters and all that kind of stuff?
So no, so
Are you
I
an artist? Like you got that skill set as well, or no?
I'm trying to. I'm right now. I'm in the process of teaching myself how to draw. Like I can draw like a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I can draw like some what I've done before, like as a kid stuff was like the faces, like
yeah,
just the face, like maybe like the person have like some scars or like their mask or stuff and stuff like that. But once it gets to like the body, it's just that was just out of my hands.
yeah, yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah,
I'm
me
in the
too.
process of teaching myself now.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I'm not an artist. I leave that up to the people,
yeah.
who are good at
Me too.
it.
I'm not an artist. I mean, I wish I was. I've
Yeah.
tried. I just, whatever reason, I don't have that skill set. But from a storytelling standpoint, like at what part in your life did storytelling become a passion for you?
Storytelling. So musical artist. I also rap and I do
Oh,
poetry
okay.
too.
That
So
helps,
like
right?
yeah, so that kind of started when I was like 14.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of storytelling through that became a thing. Like
Sure.
kind of it more so became like, life stories, like things I go through and
Absolutely.
not like really like comic book stories. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's like that writing kind of started with there and just like I
Mhm.
said, like once like a little bit before the pandemic is when, really trying to write these characters and these ideas down and create this
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, that's cool. I mean, I think music, rap is a perfect way to share your story. And then
Mhm.
I think it does build an amazing skill set for something like comics, right? There's a lot of things I think that you could relate to, right? Between the two.
Definitely, definitely. And it kind of especially it really goes hand in hand, especially like being a Wu-Tang fan. Like a Wu-Tang fan, like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were always using like comic book references and stuff
for
like that.
sure. Yeah,
So it's definitely goes parallel because I always tell people like I tell people like I use kind of the same brain that I use, same part of my brain that I use for
yeah,
like writing comics as to like write a song. It
yeah.
like it's like the same feel or it pulls from that same creativity to do
Right.
that, so they kind of really go hand in hand.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man. All right. So we get into 615. So you got to share with me, what is 615? I got to know, man.
So the 615 actually comes from it's a so when around when I was like maybe like 21 to like 22,
Yeah.
I had this like group of friends and we all meet at my friend's house. He lived on his own in his apartment. I mean his townhouse number was 615.
Ah,
So
cool.
so like we would do that, we would go there, do a whole bunch of stuff that we probably shouldn't have been doing. And we would make music, we would do a whole bunch of creative stuff. It
Yeah.
really became like it was more musical, like came like a jam session. Like people would come over with different instruments. Like we would have times where they would just play and we would like rap over it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
it really became like a hub for like just creativity.
Right.
So after he ended up committing suicide, and so I kind of took that name and like that time and wanted to like keep it, keep it
Yeah,
going, like bring some good to it,
sure.
and so that's where 615 came from.
Yeah, yeah. Well, sorry to hear that. I mean,
Yeah,
but man, what a great way to keep the legacy going, though. That's pretty awesome.
yeah, definitely.
That's cool, man. So then we jump right into 615. What's your first title under 615?
That is actually what you have right there.
Oh, this
Six.
is it right here.
That was my very first title, Evora
Let's
Leigh, a new
go, man.
breed.
Well, I mean, we'll get into the story, but I'm going to open it up. I don't want to give away the story. We want people to go out there and purchase it. But the art, we could at least start there, right? The art is fire, man. I really
Yes.
enjoyed the art. The storyline obviously is amazing as well. But yeah, man. I was super excited to get this in the mail too. I did a little video, but yeah, I mean, the look at the art on that thing, man.
Yes. Really shouts to Pitch Comic Art on Instagram. Pitch Comic Art is the artist for this.
Okay.
Me and him met through Instagram, and then we grew our relationship through there and working on this project, and it
Yeah.
was great working on this project with him. It was so great. Like he understood what the things out exactly what I wanted, like
Yeah.
without even me having to say it most time. Like I would share the script with him and he would just bring it to life. Like it
Yeah.
was so easy to work with him.
That is so cool. And we're going to figure out what that thumbs up is, but it seems to come at the right time. So the computer agrees with you with Malcolm. It's so weird seeing it. Like it's so distracting. I have no idea what that is. I did an upgrade, everyone, and now I got thumbs ups, I guess. So I guess it's
Right.
it's so weird. But oh man, that's awesome. What a great entrance into the 615. For some reason, I thought there was another title, but it might have just been some art that you shared that I thought it was maybe another title. But man, that's awesome, man. So you have Evora Leigh as your first title, man. I saw that coming soon, issue 2. Are you already kind of working on issue 2 right now, or what's happening next with 615?
So issue two right now at 16 Comics, we're producing some other comics right now, so that
Okay.
are in production at this moment. So we're
Nice.
doing this right now, but at the end of this year in December, me and Pitch Comic are on Instagram. Me and him are going right back into producing issue two. So issue two is already written up. It's already, prepared and everything. We just have to start production on it. So
Yeah.
now we'll start later on this year, which I cannot wait for.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So can you kind of share with us 615? You started it, but do you have some other creators that are working with you at 615, or is it just you at this point?
At this point, it's just me as the writer and creator, and I'm just working with different artists to like make this all come true. But
Yeah.
right now, it's just me. I kind of want to like get these. I want to do branch out and work with other creators, but I'm a real impulsive and I have ADHD, so focus. I need to. My whole life is try to focus on one thing at a
Yeah,
time.
you're right.
So I
Yeah.
want to bring like these comics and these this universe to life, and then I definitely want to branch out and work with more creators
Yeah.
and collab and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So what's your vision long term for 615? Like where do you think you see yourself maybe in like 5 years with your brand?
So I would love to say I want to be bigger than DC and Marvel. That's what I
Yeah,
want to
for
say.
sure. I mean, you got to say it for it to come true, right, man? You have to speak
Exactly.
things into reality.
Yes, we do. We have to speak into existence. But
Exactly.
more realistically, I would just want to for 615 just to have, like a steady we have like a steady release of comics. Like, like I have millions of ideas in my head, different series that I've written out, and I would love to, start getting some of those done too. But
Sure.
once I get this universe with these characters up and going, I want
Yeah.
to get that, more so it's not, how can I put this, not like you're not waiting a year
Yeah.
for another book. So I want to get it more to where it's more streamlined.
Sure.
And so in 5 years I would definitely want that. I want to have it more streamlined, then I can start to branch out.
Exactly. Yeah. Not easy, man, to get the funds scraped up and everything like that,
Right.
to get things going, man. I have the same problem myself, my friend. So I feel that, but that's awesome, man. I'm glad to see that, you got a good plan to bring out some pretty amazing titles. Are there titles that you could share? You're not ready to share those yet. Some
oh
of
i
these that you're working on.
Oh, I'm definitely ready to share. So there's some titles. So some of these you probably won't see expect for a little bit, but in 2024, well, right now we have a Kickstarter out right now for our second series, The King's Domain, which we're fully funded on that. So that will be coming out too. So that's good.
Yeah.
Right now we're working on that's a work in progress right now is a series I'm really excited. Well, I'm excited about all these series, but
Sure.
I'm really excited about this one called Hellhawk. This series that I'm working on right now is kind of my homage to image 90s image comics
I
because
see.
I'm definitely a fan of 90s image comics, and so this is kind of like my homage to that. And
Nice.
it's a vigilante story. It's real bloody. It's a lot of action,
Love it.
colorful characters.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
one series that we're working on, and there's another series that is also kind of like, it's the series that's most me in
Yeah.
it because the character in it is kind of me as a younger version of me.
Oh, okay.
So like that series called Legacy, and that will also be coming out next year. Both of those
Wow.
titles will be coming out next year, and I can't wait for people to read those. The
Yeah.
Legacy, especially because Legacy, I'm kind of little worried about because it's a lot of me. You feel me? Like
Yeah,
it,
yeah. It's
it's a
more
lot of
your
me.
story. Like, is it following your life story type thing?
Not in a it takes parts of my life and then but kind of switches them.
Yeah,
It's still a lot of me in it. So it's
yeah,
kind of like my most personal book in a way.
yeah.
So
A little
yeah,
bit vulnerable, right? To put something like that together, right?
definitely, real vulnerable. Like definitely I'll probably cry good a lot when that book comes out. So
Yeah, that's
so
awesome, man. Is it a superhero comic book, or is it more of just a like a thriller? It's just a story about a person that you could relate to because it has parts of your life into it.
so it's so if you take superhero and that very last one, like kind of just a story about somebody that takes parts of my life into it. If you mix those together, that's the perfect way of saying it. It's
Yeah.
definitely like a another vigilante story,
Yep.
and it's to give it more of a context. It's a vigilante story about a father and son who the son who develops these powers that are inherited from his father. So
Hmm.
like they had the powers passed down from father to son over generation to generation.
Yeah.
So he gains these powers and then he becomes like a vigilante, but his father's kind of against it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of stuff in there that is comes from my life and
Yeah.
that I put in there kind of to be like a superhero story. Yeah.
Awesome, man. What, man, you have a lot of things that you're going to be trying to accomplish in the next year, man. That's pretty impressive, to be
I'm
honest, Matt.
impulsive and I have ADHD.
Yeah, yeah. But I did see King's Dominion, and I'm glad that everything worked out on there, and that's being funded. I was a backer of that, so I can't wait for that one to come too. So,
Hey,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, I'm really excited, man. I really mean it, Malcolm. I love the art. The story was awesome. So, you got me sold, man. I'm a fan for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's this whole journey has been really incredible. Like just
Yeah,
starting out this year and then meeting people like you and like we talked about Wise Acre Comics. Like this, the I've seen which was kind of it's kind of weird because jumping into like this whole comic scene, I saw a lot of like on Twitter and Instagram people's horror stories about like people in the comic scene being jerks or just not being welcoming, but so
yeah,
far, like I've met people like you, I've met people like Wise Acres, and everybody's been,
yeah.
welcoming and really cool. So that's been great.
No, I love the indie community. Again, everyone says they want to stay away from politics and they just want to enjoy comics, and then you come into like a comic realm and they're doing the exact same thing they're doing in politics, so everyone's kind of divided here on this side. You're like, dude, I just where do we go to get lost, right? And
Right.
comics really is a place to get lost. So I'm not going to be a fan of your comic if I go to it and I'm just re-listening to the news or something like that I'm trying to escape, right? I want to have a really nice story with some amazing art, and I just want to forget about everything for 15 to 20 minutes, however long it takes me to read the comic. And then all that stuff's going to bombard us, right? But you got to have exits, right? Or you'll go crazy, right? There's just a lot of bad stuff happening right now in the world. And man, I just love comics because yeah, I just get lost, right? You're in it and you're just in this other world and you're getting captured through the story. And then all of a sudden it's over and you're like, oh man, I'm sitting in a Starbucks. I forgot where I was at for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? I love that feeling, man. Like I had a physical therapy today because I had some surgery on my back. So I had to be there at 7 this morning. And so I got up pretty early and I got to the Starbucks around 5:30 and I pulled out some comic books and I laid them out and I was just trying to catch up on everything, man. And then all of a sudden my alarm went off and an hour and a half went by and I'm like, oh crap, I'm at Starbucks. I forgot where I was at, man. I was just into it. You know what I mean? And I love that feeling, man. That's what comics does for me, and probably for the same for you, right? You get into that first time you have the money to buy your own comic and you get in the new 52, man, you get lost in the story. And I don't know. I just love that about comics, man. That's my escape.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like the same thing has happened to me plenty of times, and like that also stuff like that it would made me kind of want to like make comics, like
Yeah.
especially like especially with you said like an escape. So with me, especially being like a black writer and
Yeah.
making black characters,
Yep.
so a lot of times with especially that with what we go through as black people sometimes comes into our comics, like which
Yeah.
is good, like our struggle needs to be shown, but
Yep.
also for me, what I wanted to do with my comics is not so much show like the struggle that we go through. I kind of wanted to show just like black characters that were just black characters, like like we didn't have to like you didn't have to see like police brutality or slavery or anything. Not
Right.
not a knock to anybody that does put that in their comments because that's stuff that we go through. That's a
For
story
sure.
that's going to be told. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I want so when you have that, and then you come to me, you can be
Yeah.
like, hey, I want an escape for 15 minutes. I just want to see this black girl with
Yeah.
powers, to generate
Kick
energy.
ass for 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to make
Yeah.
my side of comics, and people can come to where you still see these black characters,
Yeah.
But you kind of get an escape from the reality and you go into more of a fantasy world,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people have powers or they're doing crazy things, being vigilantes, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I love it. I love it. And I'm glad that ability for you to be able to release these stories is
Mhm.
happening in comic books. You know what I mean? Because obviously it was happening in music for a while. But now I'm happy that it's happening in comics because this is my thing right here. So I
Right.
get to hear your story through a comic, which is awesome, man. No, that's beautiful, man. You mentioned being black. You mentioned black leads in comics, man. How important is that to you? And growing up, did you feel like representation was taking place in the comics that you were reading enough for you, or was there a big lack, and that's what's driving you to create something on your own with black led characters?
That's a very good question. That goes into a lot of why I created comics. So, with me growing up, representation is very important to me. It's very important to me because just seeing somebody like you, like
Yeah,
I didn't really notice it for too much until I read this one comic and I started reading it in my own voice because the character, me and the character were very similar. So I
yeah,
believe it was part of New 52 actually. It was called Vigilante Southland. It was DC. And
yeah,
it was like this new character that they had. And then me and him were so similar. And I started reading the comic in my own voice. Like I started hearing my voice in the head when he would speak. And I
yeah,
just like that is so dope. And then of course, some of my favorite heroes are Static and everything.
yeah,
So
yeah,
representation is really important to me.
yeah,
So, and with your question, I felt like there was a big lack,
yeah.
especially from DC and Marvel. Like, not saying they don't have good black heroes, they have great black heroes.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
their most famous ones, the ones that they're gonna push more are, of course, the Batmans, the Spider-Mans, the Supermans, which is fine. These are their money makers.
hmm,
That's what they're gonna push. I'm not mad at them for that.
yeah,
So, but there was a lack. So that led me to go into finding indie creators. So
yeah,
like that's where like the Godhood comics, Wise Acres, Concrete comics,
yeah,
Freestyle comics, all of them kind of became that's who I started looking for. And then, seeing those
yeah,
being like, man, these are people just like me that had a dream of making comics. They wrote their ideas out. Like, why can't I do that? Like, why can't I write my ideas out and, bring my story to life just like these people did?
sure.
So representation is very, very important to me. Because of that in indie comics, I'm very grateful for indie comics because now it's like 5 years ago, I was really hungry for representation. Now it's like I don't even gotta really look for it. It's just there.
It
Like
is.
it's like I tell people all the time, if you especially people that are in especially black nerds, like blurs and everything, I'd say
Yeah,
like bro, I love DC and Marvel. They're great. But if you're looking for some representation, why don't we look for people like us who are, making it? And then
yeah,
so that really the indie scene has really opened up a lot, especially with me as a fan. As a fan, not even a creator. As
yeah,
a fan, like there's so many books I can read right now that are dope, that are, that have black leads, or not even if it's not even black leads, like there's still indie creators that make dope stories. So
yeah,
it
yeah.
especially with the creative side. So that really has been a dope part of this journey.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate to be able to interview some of these other creators that you mentioned, like Concrete with Lonzo Starr and
Yeah.
Tyler Martin with Godhood. And yeah, I mean, they're just such fantastic human beings. And, your story matches theirs, right? They love Marvel, they love DC. But that representation was lacking. It was there, but it was just lacking, and it wasn't at the forefront of the focus of DC and Marvel because they had other characters that they were pushing that they, like you said, it's their money makers, right?
Right.
Um, so that hunger, and although you could look at that as a negative, which it is, I don't want to say it's not because that is a negative. There should be more representation there, but because of that situation, we do have a 615. We do have Concrete, right? So, if
Mhm.
that representation was there, which it should have been at the forefront, so that way more people could relate to those characters and also have a writer that has the same voice, because the other concern that some black creators that I've interviewed have said is even some of those black creators weren't written with a black voice, right? And so you try, like you said, you try to put your voice, your way of speaking as you're reading, but when you're reading it, that's not how I would speak, right? So even though you had this black character, which is amazing, right? It was still being written by someone who wasn't black, so that voice wasn't there. The picture was black, but the person wasn't black that I was reading, right? So exactly. I don't think that makes sense, right? So all of a sudden, because of that situation, man, we're blessed with Concrete, Godhood. Like, there's so many amazing indie creators that are black creators with black leads, that now you have all this amazing representation that are taking place in indie comics. And although you would think that DC and Marvel would be in a better spot in that area, we don't actually have to have them do that, because all this other, writer creators have popped up on the scene, which I think is fantastic. And we might not have had that if Marvel and DC did it right the first time. So their mistake has been a blessing on the indie scene, because, man, I'm a huge fan of Concrete Comics. I have everything they've ever created so far. I talk to Lonzo all the time, man. I'm also a musician, just like yourself, right? So he started as a musician. He was rapping. Actually, he has a couple songs on Spotify that you can listen to right now. And then yeah. After we're done, I'll let you know which ones they are. But he did that, and then he went into comics, and then he exploded. I mean, I don't know how many titles they have now. Maybe 7 or 8 titles from 7 or 8 creators. I mean, they're killing it right now, right? Yeah. And then you have Godhood, who is now kind of the parent company for Wiseacre, who now publishes under Godhood, right? And they're killing it with Magnus and some of the other titles that they have coming out. Magnus, if you haven't read Magnus through Wiseacre, dope comic. Art,
fire.
The art, in fact, the art is so good that they lost their artist to DC.
Yes, I just saw that. I just saw that. That sucks. Definitely sucks. But shout outs to that artist.
Oh, yeah.
That's so dope. But yeah, man, Magnus, like the art, but not even just the art, just how it's written. Like, man,
some of those characters in there are just crazy. I'm getting chills just talking about it, man.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's so good, man. And that's really important in comics, whether it's black, white, Hispanic, whatever it is. You got to have really good art, and you have to have a really good story. I don't care who you are, man. If you're a buyer, the first thing you look at is that cover. Right?
Yes.
So the cover's got to pop, right? The second thing you're going to do is open it. And you're going to see all those panels and the art on there. If the art looks like trash, that's the last time you're going to get that chance, right? So it's important not just to have representation in indie comics, but amazing representation with great art and great stories. And we're blessed to have that in all these companies that we've been talking about. I mean, you look at Tyler Martin, man. I was talking to him about 2 weeks ago. He was in LA because they're making a TV series out of the antagonist. So he's killing it. Lonzo Starr, he's got a whole animation thing going on with his comic book. I mean, this is crazy. David Crownson with Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. He just got picked up by Massive Publishing, which is killing it right now with Astrobots and some of their other titles. And now he has a director for Disney Plus, and they're about to start working on a series for Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer as well at Disney. So you have all these amazing, black creators, and they're killing it right now, and they're being seen, and people are going to them and saying, man, we got to do more with that property. So it's like a gold mine for black creators right now, because such amazing quality is coming out of the indie scene. So yeah, we're blessed, man, to have the situation that we have. And now you're jumping right in, Malcolm, and man, it's a good time to jump in. And you got a really high quality product here too, man. So I was super happy with it when I got it. And congratulations, man. That's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been so, like what you said with all of that, like them, everybody, boom. Like I was talking to somebody right now. I was talking to one of my friends who's not even into the comics, and I was kind of like just rambling. But I was talking to him. I was like, yo, like it's kind of like a renaissance right now for like black artists in comic books. Like it's like I think I think what people are really seeing, especially with like the popularity of Miles Morales starting
Yeah.
to grow and stuff like that, especially with the Black Panther, with that making $1 billion when that came out. I
Yeah.
think people are seeing like that we also want this representation, and like we're willing to put our money towards really good quality representation of ours. So like I
Yeah.
think that is really where we can really start to boom. And then I think just the people that are doing it, like I think like you see, like you said with Wise Acres, Godhood, Concrete, like you see how they're doing it, and then they're putting out quality work. Like their books all look amazing. Like when I went into making my own book, like I was like, okay, bro, like I have to. One of the things I did once I got my book is this is exactly what I did. So I got my book. I like once I got my proof, I had it, and I took all like the other indie comics that I supported like through Kickstarters, like Wise Acres. I took I think it was the Galactic Patrol from Godhood Comics, the new
Yeah.
one that came out. I
Yeah.
had put all
GP,
those,
yeah.
yeah, that one. I put all those side by side next to my comic, like on the floor, and just
Yeah.
looked at it. And I
Yeah.
was like, if I was at, I had to take myself out of like being me for a second. I was like, if I was at a comic book store and
Yeah.
I saw all of these sitting next to each other, would mine still be, would I still think mine looks good? Would I still take
Yeah.
mine off the shelf and go through the pages? And
Yeah.
I was so ecstatic. I was like, yo, I feel like mine still looks as good as everybody else's. So I was like so hyped. I was like, bro, I was because they when it came to make comics, they were the standard for me. Like Wiseacre, Godhood, Concrete, they are all the standard for me.
Yeah.
So I like when making it, I didn't want to do nothing that I didn't think was on par. Because
Yeah.
if it wasn't on par, then like then like what am I doing? You feel me? Like if these guys are putting out amazing work, so I wanted to be something just as amazing. I wanted to be just as good to add to like this renaissance is going on.
Yeah.
So they were my driving factor. They were literally like pushing my needle further and further. Like I need to be good. So I owe a lot to them
Yeah.
just for just them being there. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I love that. I love everything they're doing, and everything they do, I follow it, and it keeps motivating me to keep going, push it in
Yeah.
my own way.
That's so cool, Malcolm. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're part of a group of creators, or like you said, it's a renaissance, man. And some of these gentlemen have really paved the way and opened the door for a lot of other creators to come in, and a lot of young Black creators, but even other creators, man. So you have this side of representation, which is extremely important, and
Mm-hmm.
all of these gentlemen have been able to bring forth that representation, which is extremely important. But also just being in the indie scene and being able to follow someone who's paved the way as just an indie creator, right? So you have the Black side of it, but then you have the indie side of it. And I'm
Right.
like, it helps me too, right? Because they are the standard. They've done things so well and they've created their business so well that, man, that's why to be honest, the whole podcast, the whole reason I created a podcast is to be able to meet people like you, pick their brain, and learn for myself how to be better at the craft as well. So so there's a selfish reason why I started it, but then on the other side, I've been able to meet all these amazing people. And to your point, man, they're all willing to open their door and provide support, man. It's just awesome. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm rambling, but man, it's so fun to see, and I really enjoy it, man. I mean, indie comics is where it's at right now. I mean, DC and Marvel have struggled like the last 2 years. In fact, they struggled so much. There used to be a report that came out would show you the top 200 comic books. And it would come out every single week. And they don't even share that anymore because there were so many comics that were declining that shouldn't be declining by them. And really, it's a storytelling issue, right? They've
Right.
put in a lot of things that have changed characters, and that really turns off readers of those characters that have loved those characters for a very long time. So that's one issue. The other issue is you got Kickstarter, you have Fund My Comic, you have Zoop, you have
Mhm.
what else? Indiegogo. And what you don't see in data is the amount of comics that are being sold through all these different platforms through indie creators. And you can't see it on a report. I also think that's hurting Marvel and DC because the indie scene has gotten so big. In fact, I go to my local comic book store. I have my pull list, right? So I mean, I just got my pull list today. I only had two things today. But I got the issue one of Spider Boy,
Mhm.
and then the massive universe. I got that. That was it on my pull list. And then I go to Kickstarter and I do my shopping on there, man. You know what I mean? So that's like my second comic book store because there's so many amazing indie comics out there. And I love it, man. It's just it's awesome to see indie so strong.
It's really funny that you say that because I was literally just thinking I went through. I didn't go to the comic book store today because I didn't feel like leaving the house today, so I didn't go nowhere. So I looked at my pull list today because I got like the little comic app that gives you like your pull list every day,
Oh,
and
okay.
so my lately my DC and Marvel pull list kind of been going down and down and down. So like today I only had like three comics on it, and I was like, dang. But like you said, like my Kickstarter line is going up. And
Yeah.
it's like the indie scenes, like for me, I don't know if this may be the same for you too, and it may be the same for other people, but like it's kind of like I love these stories. Like I love Batman, I love Superman, but it's kind of where DC and Marvel kind of aren't going any much further. Like
Yeah.
they'll have a new writer on that is dope that you would love to see write this character, but
Yeah.
they're going to go up against this villain. Nothing kind of new is going to happen. So like you're kind of just reading for the character at that point in a way. And
Yeah.
even when they create like new characters, that new character doesn't really stay around too long if
Yeah.
they end up going back to Batman or something like that. So these indie stories are just kind of more intriguing. They're kind of new. You don't know where they'll end up. It could just be a 4 issue series. It could be an ongoing. It could be a one shot. But still, it
Yeah.
kind of makes you feel like a kid again with these indie comics. You feel me? Like it kind of makes you feel like with all of them, like just it makes you feel like a kid. Like, oh, what is this? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
character designs. Like there's this one. I think it's called Stray Shadow. Stray Shadow. He's on Instagram, and his Kickstarter right now is out right now, and like his character design is so fire. Yeah, if you
Really?
get a chance, it's called Stray Shadow, I believe.
Straight
And
shot.
it's stray, like a stray
Oh,
bullet.
stray,
But like,
like a stray
yeah,
cat.
yeah, yep, yep.
Nice.
So like I just look at him like I feel like when I looked at the character, I was like, bro, like this is fine. Like same time when you saw Batman's first character design, like you
Yeah.
like it makes you feel like a kid, and then so it's just real dope, and especially that we have all these different platforms
Yeah.
like Kickstarter. That's the one I mainly use. That's the one I mostly know about.
Mm.
I think it's called. I think you say indie.
Indiegogo has a lot. So Kickstarter and Indiegogo probably have the most comics.
Yeah,
Kickstarter for one, Indiegogo would be next, I think.
and then
They
Zoop.
have a
And,
Zoop, which is a little bit newer, but a lot of comic traders have gone over there. So yeah, I mean Zoop, you have to pay right away. And so that's why I think Kickstarter is so strong, is you could pledge and know, okay, I got like 30 days before they're going to charge my card, right? So
right.
I pledge today, let them know I'm going to do it, but I don't have to be on the hook for financially until that time, right? That way, if you need to save up because maybe you're doing several Kickstarters or something like that, that's there. Whereas like Zoop, Fund My Comic, and there's another Indiegogo, you have to pay immediately. So there's no pledging, you just buy it. And then you
Right.
get it until the end. And it doesn't matter whether they hit their goal or not. So like Indiegogo, you could put in like $500. If you miss it, you'll still get whatever was given to you because you pay up front.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. But yeah, there's a lot of them, man.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, that's kind of dope that there are a lot of
Mm.
platforms for us indie because I've seen actually who did I see just read like actual Kevin Grievous, the guy who created Underworld, the and
Yeah.
Blue Marvel, his
Yep.
comic was just on Kickstarter.
Yeah. He did
Also,
pretty good.
I mean, I'm guessing he did.
Yeah, I mean, he should, right? He's got a history, but some of these guys come on Kickstarter and they're getting like 60,000 or $90,000. You're like, man, that's crazy, man.
Right.
Yeah, he did
But
pretty good.
I think that's dope that even like creators who have created for DC and Marvel can now have their own comics. There's also a writer I followed, Brian Hawkins.
Oh
He's
yeah,
he's creating his own comic book company right now, and then
Yeah,
so like and he puts out stuff on Kickstarter. So I
awesome.
think
He's
that's
a good
really
guy
dope.
too. I've met him a couple of times. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's really cool. He's very cool, and also willing to give you advice and everything too. So
Yeah.
like he's really cool, and I like that these creators can kind of go to Kickstarter and all these other platforms and like do what they want to do and not have to be a part of like a bigger company and kind of put their own stories they want to put out, which is really dope.
I mean, they some of them probably get a raise, right? Even like the really good writers that have been consistent for DC, they get paid per page, a lot of them, right? And so even if you get paid $1,000 a page, let's say, or $2,000 a page, right? And you gotta, I mean, you're making $20,000 per comic book, which is, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money. But then you see like a Kevin come over with his own creation, and he has a Kickstarter and he gets $65,000, $80,000, right? All of a sudden they're making 4 times or 3 times as much as they were making at DC for a 24, 26 page issue. So I think a lot of people, I mean, you look at Scott Snyder, no longer with DC. He'll do something once in a while, but he started his own company.
Yeah.
Jeff Johns, who, I mean, he had that 10-year run with Green Lantern. I mean, most of the comic characters you love at DC over the last 15 years, the canon that's with those characters all came from Jeff John, because he wrote everything, right? And now he started his own line. James Tynion, who was with DC, and now he's doing a bunch of like horror stuff, started his. So it's like you have this max exodus of all these amazing writers that are starting their own company and then selling their comics on Kickstarter. And that's another reason why DC and Marvel have struggled, because they've lost so much talent that they're bringing in other people that maybe didn't grow up with comics. Or, I mean, I'm not going to say names because I try to keep things positive, but there was one writer, and they asked this writer, they said, in preparation for taking on, because it was a really good character that this writer was taking on the writing for, how, like, did you go back and read all the issues? Like, how did you prepare for that? She goes, no, I've never read anything from them. And I'm not worried about that. I'm going to tell my story. Well, if you're a fan of that character and you know that character's history, and all of a sudden this writer comes in and starts writing about stuff that has nothing to do with this character, you lose that fan. Right? The fan's like, I'm not buying that run anymore. That's not my character. That's a different character now, right? So I think that also has happened at Marvel and DC, and I feel bad for them because they're losing all these creators, but they're going to Kickstarter and Indiegogo because that's where the money's at.
And they can tell their own story. They can be more creative and do their thing.
Exactly.
Which I love. I think it's do you know, are you a fan of Jeff Lemire?
Yeah. Okay. Jeff Lemire is awesome, man.
I'm so far behind, but what he's doing with that Black Hammer universe,
yes,
like man, like I'm so far behind, but doing with that universe was crazy, and I believe he did that with. It wasn't Image.
I thought it was Image. Was it Image?
I
thought it was Image.
It might be Image. It could be Image.
Yeah. Either way, but
he
killed it.
Yes, that is. I'm so far behind. I need to catch up. But I started with the first 2 volumes of the Black Hammer.
Yeah,
that joint, and I really want that to be like a TV series. But that's
just seeing it. Maybe it was Dark Horse. I think you might be right. Maybe it wasn't Image.
I know it was one of the other like big indie, like it was either Image or Dark Horse.
Yeah, I'm sorry to do this. This is going to drive me nuts the rest of the time we're talking. And back to
I understand that. It's just dope to see what these creators can do on their own.
Yeah, let's see. It's popping up right now. We're gonna get this right, man. We're gonna get this right. Oh, it doesn't say on the front of the omnibus. Hold on. I don't know. I was looking on it came up on Amazon. That's all right, man. I don't want to waste time on that. But anyways, yeah, I thought it was Image, but now that you said that, it made me think like, I don't think it is, man. I think it's like Dark Horse or something like that.
Maybe.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I can't remember what it is, but yeah, it's still dope to see him do
Oh
like
yeah.
his own thing, and be creative outside of like DC and Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, and you know, these creators probably had this in the back of their mind the whole time they were writing Batman and Green Lantern and stuff like that. And they're like, man, do I present this to DC and then I lose the rights to what I created? Right. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of that going on too. Because you do, right? I mean, and again, it's a business, right? So that's no shot at DC. DC's like, if I'm going to publish it and I'm going to give you an opportunity and take a risk, I want some ownership in that just in case it does do well. So I get that part too. I don't think there's any reason to hate them for that, but man, it's awesome to see them kind of move away, still own everything, and then create these universes that are incredible, man.
It is. It's inspiring too. It's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
to read these stories, especially as like creating yourself and
Mm,
like to see what and to see like especially Jeff Lemire because one of my favorite runs of Jeff Lemire is part of the New 52. It was one of my favorite New 52, the Green Arrow run that he
yeah,
did. And I think it was in the middle. It wasn't the start of Green Arrow. I think it was like the middle of Green Arrow. He had like a run that was just fire. And
yeah,
then just to see what he did with Green Arrow and then see what he was able to do with his own stuff was
yeah.
really dope to see. Like it just had like he was able to go with what DC was doing with Green Arrow at that time, and
Yeah.
it's dope. And then to see how his writing style with
Mm,
his own comic
yeah.
like still fits and still is able to blossom. So that in itself is really inspiring, especially for me. It's very motivating. It gets my creative juices going all the time. So it's really dope.
Man, that's so awesome, Malcolm. Well, I mean, just to get back to the 615, man, you have four separate titles, it sounds like, that you're working on over the next 4 or 5 months, man. That's a lot. That's a lot, man. That's awesome, man. I'm super happy for you, man, to have each of those individual stories done and that you're working on the way you are. Because as a fan, the only if there's a negative of indie, which there's no negatives, but there is one, is sometimes you'll go on Kickstarter, you'll back someone, but and I know the process, right? It takes a long time. You got to raise money. Sometimes it's like 6 months before you get the second part of the story, right? And so not that it's a bad negative, but I forgot by that time, right? So then, you know what I mean? But at the time when you're reading it, you just want more. And that's the benefit of DC and Marvel. You don't have to wait, 4 more weeks to get the second part of that story. And indie, sometimes you got to wait a little bit longer. But for you to be able to bust out possibly four over the next 6 months to a year, man, if you could do that, you're like at the top echelon, at least of production, to be able to push product out, man, because that's a lot.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot. It is
Yeah.
definitely especially it comes a lot to like like have the focus and to do it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have ADHD, so that allows me to do a whole bunch of things at once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's my thought process for that was like I had this universe, and the very first thought of it was to make a story where all of them were together,
Yeah.
like it didn't branch out, like kind of like a big event type of thing, and then they branch out. And
Right.
the thing that stopped me from doing that is like when you do a big event, which is cool, but like I didn't want it to be for my universe. Is like once you do a big event, when you do these number ones, like Evora Leigh number one, if I did a big event, the number one would be branching off that big event. Like each number one would have to call back to this big event instead of kind of living on their own. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Instead of like not having like, okay, you gotta read this big event and then go into it. Like I wanted you to be able to these characters will cross over, but I wanted you to be able to kind of live with these characters on their own and then come into where they cross over and
Mm.
then still be able to branch after they cross over, still be able to still branch out to those individual characters.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty smart. Because when you do a team book to start with and then break out, sometimes it's really hard to break out with each of those ones with the stories that you wanted to tell. But if you start that way and bring them together, I feel like as a reader reading that team book is going to mean a lot more because you're going to have all these background stories for each of those characters when you start the team book. Whereas, if you start with a team book, you might not understand like what makes that character tick within it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty smart. To be honest, Malcolm, I
Yeah.
think you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, because also personality wise, like I wanted you to, because especially with which also a thing you don't think about before when you start getting it's like writing comics is like each character has their own voice.
Yeah,
Each like
exactly.
me and you, like how I would say something would be different to how you say something, you know.
Sure.
So even if it's like hello, you may just say hi and I may say hello. You feel me? Like it's still a difference in that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
at the same time, we're doing a team book. I wanted you to know, like, okay, this character is more of a jerk. Like when he
yeah,
says something, like he kind of means it this way, or this character is more joking. So
yeah,
like, and when they do come together and their personalities do like start to come together and like they bounce off each other, you will understand why. Especially even let's say you only read Evora Leigh all the way up to there's a team book, and then that team book is what gets you onto these others. You're
yeah,
still going to know how Evora Leigh acts. You're still going to know what she may say, what she might not say, what she would do in this situation.
hmm
So, and then these other characters, you'll start to learn them.
yeah,
So it still gives you kind of a baseline to go into. You feel me? And
yeah,
that's kind of what my thought process was for that. But there's also, and I also think that fit my style of writing. But
yeah.
there's people. What was it? Dang, it's slipped my head. But there's people that have started out with big events that
Yeah.
start the universe that
Mhm.
do it great. That do it great. Like you off jump, like these characters, and I think for my style of writing, it just more so
Yeah.
fit better to make them single and then come together.
Yeah. 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 No, I'm aligned with you. I think if I had the same ideas as you with all these different characters, I think I would probably do it the exact same way for all those same reasons. So, um, not that I'm the authority of what's right or wrong, but that's what I see as being right. You know what I mean? Like that's how I would do it too. So I like that idea, and I can't wait to see some of these other creations that you come out with. And then when you get that team book, so as a fan going into it, I'll be super excited because I will know those characters, and it'll be kind of cool to see how you bring them all together and how they interact with one another, which will be really unique as a writer as to like who clicks with one another and who doesn't get along right away because they're just
Yeah,
polar opposites, right? That's a lot of fun as a writer to be able to create those like little nuances that are extremely important to a fan to understand how each person kind of clicks and doesn't click with one another.
yeah. Me and you think a lot alike. Me and you think a
Yeah.
lot alike because that exactly what you exactly just said
Uh-huh.
is what I'm excited about. Like
Yeah.
when so I haven't written the crossover. I have the idea and everything in my head and kind of like the outline of how I want it to happen. And I already have I already know the characters that are not gonna get along. Like I already have that in my head. Like that is I can't wait to write that out. Like these two characters just not
Yeah.
getting along. Because like we like you two as a creator, we take things from our life, that we
For
see.
sure.
So like I'm pretty sure you've written into like you've seen interactions between people who
Yeah.
maybe types of personalities that didn't click and then put
Yep.
that into your book. Like
Yeah.
I can't wait to do that. Like I can't wait to do that. That's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah,
be
for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. I mean, that's freaking awesome. Sorry, my medication bill alarm went off, but yeah, no, I think that as a writer, that's one of the things that I think are really exciting, Malcolm, is to be able to bring characters together and then to develop like who's going to get along and who's not, and the reasons why, and
right.
even like how they talk to one another and how vicious it could get. Like all that stuff, I think is super fun, man.
It's like you're creating the drama. It's like
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
creating the drama for like a reality TV show. Like you're
Exactly.
creating the drama. Like it's so
Yep,
fun. It's like it's kind of like a puppet master type of thing because you're like
for sure.
writing it, but it's like watching a train wreck, like what you know is gonna happen, and then but you're the one controlling this train wreck.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is very exciting. I can't wait to like make these characters argue. Like I can't wait for that.
Yeah. It'll be awesome, man. Wow, Malcolm. I mean, I tell you what, man, it's super exciting to be able to read your comic and to get to know you, man. What else like I mean, you kind of shared a lot of the things that you're working on, but is there anything that we kind of left out that you want people to know that you're doing right now?
Um, yeah, actually, yeah, yeah. So, uh, I also besides comic creating, I also do like you also do, like have my channel called Yo a Nerd, where I kind of talk about indie comics, where I review
What's it
indie
called again?
comics. Yo a Nerd.
Oh,
So it's like review indie comics. I kind of started with that before I started making my own comic.
nice.
So
We'll put
uh
that in the comment section so everyone can go follow you.
oh definitely, yeah. So especially what I do, and then what I wanted to do more is more so like you're doing, like interview people, talk to people, meet people, talk about, their creations, and also just nerd out with people, maybe just talk to people about comics. Like, so also after this, I want to talk to you too. We can talk to more about after this interview, but about you coming on my show so we can,
I would love
I
to, man.
can, but that's also something that I do. So that if that's also want to give people a shout out on, that is like Yo and Nerd, where I review not also just indie comics, but I also talk about, comics that I read from DC and Marvel that I like. And also on that show, my kind of start was kind of give comics to like normal people,
Yeah.
because you probably know, in my circle of friends, I am the comic nerd. So like when movies come out, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting
Yeah.
calls like, bro, what is this? What is this about? Is this going to be trash?
Yeah.
Should I see this? So the channel kind of is for that, to give like comics in layman's terms to
Yeah.
people. So
I
yeah,
love
that's
it.
something you could check out that I do besides like comic creation.
No, that's awesome, man. For sure. Count me in. I would love that. And I would love to collaborate with you too. And we like once in a while when a DC or Marvel movie comes out, I try to create like a panel. We kind of talk about what we liked and disliked about the movie. And so, I have a group of guys that come on and gals, but I like to change it up to get like a new flavor of an opinion. So, man, I would love for you to even do that, Malcolm. I think that would be a lot of fun, man. Yeah, we
Oh,
got
I'm
Man
already.
coming up. We got the Marvels coming up. I think those are the last two of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And then we go into next
Yeah,
year. And then really, there's not a lot going on next year with like a real date, right? Like Marvel has kind of moved things out. DC
yeah.
with James Gunn is like more of a 2025 thing with Superman, where his world starts. So it's gonna be a unique year next year for like comic related
It,
content and movies, right?
it is, because yeah, I was just thinking about, because I don't even think the Batman comes out until 2025.
Yeah, it got pushed to 2025. The strike I think affected a lot of it. And it's still going on, right? A lot of people think the strike is over. No, the writer's strike is over, but the actors strike, the Actors Guild is still on strike. So there's no movies being made right now. In fact, I can't remember Rachel Ziegler, the young lady that was going to do Snow White for Disney, the actress, and then she's also in the new version of the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
Lionsgate, which is the production company that did the Hunger Games, the new movie, the Hunger Games. They had to go to the Actors Guild to get permission for three of the actors to be able to promote the movie because they're on strike and they're not allowed to promote, and they gave them permission. So like everything's still shut down, which is pushing things further and further out. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we get at the beginning of the year, man. It might be a lot of reruns, to be honest.
Yeah, so I didn't even think about that as we thought. I mean, I knew the strike was affecting everything, but I didn't think about how we don't have much next year on date. Like, yeah, like
Yeah, there ain't much going
everything
on.
really, it's just Aquaman and the Marvel seems to be at this point.
That's it. That's the only thing that I'm aware of all the way until 2025. And again, some of that 2025 stuff could be affected. I don't know. I know James Gunn has released a lot of information, but
Yeah,
his run for DC starts 2025 with Superman Legacy. That's how he's starting the new James Gunn DCU world. And then everything will kind of shoot out of that. You have the Batman, Matt Reeves Batman, but that Batman is an Elseworld. So it's not part of James Gunn. And that got pushed out just because of the strike. Because I
right.
do think that would have been out at the end of next year, but now they're saying 2025 because of the strike. So yeah, it's a lot. Oh, we have the Joker. That'll be the next one that I think comes out because they are almost done with that. The Joker.
Musical, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
So
yeah, I totally forgot about that one.
yeah, so that one will be out next year. It's being pushed out next year, so it'll probably be maybe second half of next year because of the strike. But if I remember correctly, they were almost done with all of the production of the movie. So the movie was almost complete. I think I don't know how much longer, but they'll be able to get it done at the beginning of the year, and that will probably release. So that will probably be the only comic book movie that's even out next year that I'm aware of, unless somebody knows of something I don't. That's the only thing I can think of. So it's going to be a dry year, man.
It's
The,
definitely gonna
the
be
only thing
done.
I'm excited about is Rebel Moon. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't
that
wait for
looks
that. I
so
can't
amazing,
wait for
man.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks great.
Oh,
I can't wait for that. Oh, and also no, because Invincible, the season 2 of Invincible, the first part of
it
it just
starts
came out.
this week. At the end of this week. This week, I think Saturday.
Oh,
And
it's oh
they're
yeah.
breaking it in half, so we'll get half of it now, and I think the other half like in March or April.
So
So
that's something for 2024, but that's
that's
deep
something, yeah.
stuff.
Exactly, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting time. You know, I guess it still would affect. I was thinking that because it's animated, maybe like things that are animated won't be affected, but it's all voice actors though that are doing the voices, so that would cause it to be delayed if they weren't done. But I know season 2 is complete. And they're already working on season 3. Robert Kirkman, I saw him in an interview. So
Yeah, because he said there's not going to be as long as a gap between the
yeah,
other seasons as there was between 1 and 2. Which
exactly.
I can't wait for that.
That
That's
is
going to
that is
be
literally my favorite comic book.
oh, for real.
Yeah, Invincible. It's the only comic book series I have the full run of. Is I have every issue ever created of Invincible, man. I love Invincible. So I was so excited when they came out with the animated series, and then they're working on the live action too, which will probably be 2025 as well. So
I knew that.
mm,
Okay, live action.
uh,
Ooh, that's gonna be brutal. Oh man, that's gonna be dope.
uh, you read like the first 10 issues, and you're like, yeah, this is just some kind of a Spider-Man ripoff. And then that issue 11 hits, and it becomes like the most violent comic book in the history of comic books when it came out. And then it just went on this crazy run of awesomeness. And then you start to appreciate those first 10 because he was just kind of fishing and he got a hook on you and he's bringing you in slowly. And then all of a sudden, issue 11, he started reeling you in. And oh,
Yeah,
man, I get chills thinking about Invincible because it gets crazy, man.
Invincible. I love Invincible because it's one of the few comics where I literally laughed out loud while reading. Like
Yeah,
it's a hilarious comic. Like you literally will laugh while reading this comic.
for
Like
sure.
I like not even just the action and the art just being dope, but just and it's the small things. Like the mom in the comic is like his like she's like so unbothered by things, but it's
Yeah.
like hilarious how it happens. Like this was a funny story.
Yeah, yeah,
The show just makes it even better.
exactly. No, I'm with you, Malcolm. I love that show, man. I'm so happy that it was successful. And I can't wait for season 2, man. I already watched the Adam Eve one. They released an Adam Eve one.
Still need to watch that. I still need to watch that. Yeah, I heard about that one. It got great reviews. I heard.
Yeah, you got to watch that. I think, like, I don't know how much it'll be related to season 2, but they said watch that before season 2. So we'll
Okay,
see. Yeah, yeah. So you got a few days to get caught up. You'll be
definitely. Yeah.
yeah. Well, Malcolm, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. I want to do this more often, man. Really enjoyed you. We have a lot in common, and I'm really happy for you and the success that you had on Evora Leigh. And then I can't wait for King's Dominion to be done, and then everything else that you're working on, man. I'll be there for the entire ride. And so you could count on my support, man. And then every time you have something coming out, man, come on and let's see if we can't help you with that Kickstarter and push out that information. But yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't wait to have you on my show as well. And I can't wait to collab more. Because like I said, during this whole conversation, we've had a lot of things in common. So I
Sure.
think we should definitely collab more after this.
Agree, man. Well, Malcolm, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you. Have a great rest of the week, and congratulations on everything, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. Appreciate you, man. Have a good one, okay?
You too.
All right, bye-bye.